Hello, it's great to be with you. My name is Ed. This is the Faith in Parents podcast, brought to you by the glorious team from Faith in Kids. We are always trying to walk parents through the normal everyday life with Jesus Christ, knowing, does it look a bit different? How do we make it a little bit glorious? And how can it lead to our families flourishing? I'm absolutely delighted that Amy is here as usual. Amy, are you feeling constructive, ready to go and positive?
Oh, absolutely. Always, Ed. Always, Ed. Ed, we've got guests today, many guests. But could you tell me, why have we got guests? What are we talking about? And why should I stay listening to this podcast for the next however many minutes?
Amy, it's good of you to get that up front and central. Thank you very much. I'd love to earn your ears by telling you that we're looking at the beautiful world of gaming today. We have on here two great friends of ours who I have to say have dressed appropriately. And this is just a plug because you can now watch us live on video content.
Oh my
YouTubeness.
goodness.
So it's ideal that they have dressed in brighter colours than me. Thank you so much for joining us, Andy and Tom.
Hello.
You are both glorious men. I've sat in fields with you at Dangerous Camping. We've had long conversations and we've enjoyed running around. But you also both understand how to play games on screens. You have done this for much of your life, and we're going to find out how you do this in a beautiful, godly, creative way with your children, because I know you both do that a lot. We're privileged to have you on here. Andy, you have been on before. We're delighted to have you back. Just tell us, what's your top tip on appearing on a Faith in Parents podcast?
Well, apparently it's to wear bright clothing so that you stand out against the background.
Perfect. Andy, we're going to be talking to you about a game you have literally created.
That's right. Yeah.
Do you call yourself a founder, a creator, a technological producer? What kind of title do you give for your relationship with your game?
Who knows? Yeah, it's complicated. I mean, I tend to introduce myself as just like the team lead because, you know, our game is not like the most massive, like AAA game. You know, studios these days have thousands of people. There was 10 of us, though. You know, even a small game, it requires a whole team of people to make it. So I was sort of like the man in the middle trying to coordinate people, and I did a bit of the animation and the coding and stuff as well. But I was just a bit of an everything person, really.
Can I quickly say, Andy, that I've learned to fall in love with your vlogs, explaining to me on the construction stage of your game. They are fantastically fun little things. And again, this is going to sound patronizing only because I don't watch a lot of vlogs on constructing computer games, but you make yours a lot more fun. Are they all that fun, or have you got a particularly niche quirk in there?
Thanks, Ed. I mean, I've really enjoyed watching other game developers build their games, and I think it's been a great way of building an audience before it's live. But I suppose, you know, there's not very many Christians making games from a Christian perspective. So I suppose I've tried to drop in a little bit of the sort of why we're building this game in there as well. And some of the principles that have gone into how we've approached making the game. So yeah, well, I'm glad to hear it. You know, even if you're not into games yourself, Ed, I'm glad you've enjoyed it. I've certainly had a lot of fun making them, and it's been really, I've really enjoyed it for myself, having that sort of reminder of how God has been faithful through the process, because it's definitely been an emotional roller coaster, and it's really good to look back and see how God was faithful in those ups and downs.
We're definitely going to put one of my favourite vlogs in the show notes.
You're enjoying saying that word, aren't you, Ed?
I am. It's a bit like the time my mum said to me, "So who is this Michael Jackson we hear so much about?" It's a bit like that. When someone elderly talks about something young and they enunciate it so clearly. So, pop music. Are you listening to it?
Okay, Ed, I just want to step in slightly as the mum. And say Andy's just been talking about the creation of a game and how he's enjoyed doing that. But I just want to say, what now? So Andy's made a game that's about maybe God stuff and my kids could play it. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I'm sure it's all of those things. Andy, tell me about that game a minute.
I've done this classic thing. I was on the radio once speaking about my other app, Prayer Mate, which helps you pray.
Yeah.
And I got to the end of it and I realised I'd never said the name of the app once in the whole interview. So
I'm rescuing you from that fate, Andy.
Thank you. So we've made a game and it's called The Serpent and the Seed, and it is about the Bible. So I am someone who grew up playing games. I was thinking about this morning. I'm basically one of the early digital natives in that ever since I can remember, I had a computer in my home, and basically on that computer was games. And so I've always had computer games in my life and loved them growing up, still love them as an adult. And from quite an early age, like particularly sort of as an adult, I thought, wouldn't it be amazing to have a game that is also about the Bible? Because people love games. They can evoke such emotions, and I have such sort of powerful memories of the games I played as a kid. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be awesome if those kind of memories and things could be associated with having played through the Bible? So it's been a sort of 20-year journey for me to try and do this. I wasted about 10 years sort of wandering in the wilderness, not getting anywhere. But more recently, it's taken about 4 years, but we built the Serpent Seed, and it's basically based around that promise in Genesis 3 of the seed of Eve who'll crush the serpent. And so that's the name, the Serpent Seed.
Andy, so it's the journey of a beautiful little robin, and the robin begins, and where does it go? What happens to the robin?
Well, see, the robin, you see, I mean, I've got a little, you can't see it if you're on a podcast, but I've got this little plushy version of the robin that I've made. He's called Mungo, and he is adorable. It was basically a sort of, how do you kind of go through all these different Bible stories without like actually changing the event? Like, obviously I didn't want it. It was an important principle to me that you're not like Moses or Abraham or Jesus or whatever, because we're not, are we? So we settled on this idea of you're a robin, and it happens that robins are adorable. So that's a bonus. And so you start where you find this basically the last remaining copy of the Bible. They've all been sort of wiped out by the serpent and his spies, and you dust it off and you open it and you're sucked into the story, and you arrive in the Garden of Eden and you meet Adam, you help him name some animals, and it goes from there. And then basically we're trying to trace that promise through the whole of the rest of the Bible. So like, who is the seed of Eve going to be? Is it going to be Abraham or Moses or David? And it's none of them, but they come with their own promises, like a seed of David will be king forever, or a seed of Abraham will be a blessing to the nations. And then we show sort of in chapter 3, kind of show how all those promises come together in Jesus, and I won't spoil the ending of what happens to him.
Andy, thank you so much. We are also joined by Tom, and this might be the longest we've ever waited before introducing another guest. So Tom, thanks for being patient, and we're sorry to leave you there, but we needed to find out whether we had a serpent crusher, and I'm delighted we've got closer to finding that out, but we're going to hear more about it later. Tom, just tell us a little about yourself, and would you also just tell us, Andy just mentioned his story of being maybe his generation are the first ones who could have grown up with computer games. Can you just tell us something of also your childhood, your relationship to games and Jesus? Go, Tom.
I think I wouldn't quite describe myself as much of a digital native as Andy. We didn't get screens in my house, like TV or computers, until I was about 8. But I think from that point, I was definitely hooked. So I kind of became a digital native as much as I could from that point on. I grew up in a Christian home, so was raised hearing about Jesus from my earliest memories, which was a wonderful thing, brilliant. But I think, that kind of navigating that world of getting into gaming and screens was interesting. I played a lot of games on a PC when we got one, and I played a lot of games with my dad actually on that. And then I got a games console, and that was a bit of a different experience, having that shut away in my bedroom where I kind of played on my own or played with friends when they came around. And so now that I've got 3 children of my own, I've got twin girls who are 10, I've got a son who's 12. They love games, they love screens. So trying to work out how we do that and how we raise them as believers, and what's wise, what's not wise, what seems to be working and things. So yeah.
Tom, can you give us a bit of a nostalgia moment? Tell us about one of those games that you played with your dad back in the day.
Yeah, there was a PC game called Commandos, set in World War II, and you play as a kind of squad of different characters who've got these different abilities, going behind enemy lines, blowing up things. And my dad and I used to play that, and he would be really the one doing all the strategy, right? Let's do this, let's go there, he would sit and he'd do that bit. And then we get to a point where we had to have like a shootout, and the stress was too much for my dad, and he'd say, quick, take over, we'd pause the game, switch seats, he'd get in, and I'd go bam, 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 bam. And then, when it all calmed down again, we'd switch seats and he'd get back in and do the strategy bit. So yeah, it was really fun.
Ah, and where was this? Where was the PC? It was
downstairs in our family dining room, kind of living area space. Yeah.
I was certain, Tom, you were about to say, I remember my first game was either King Kong, Donkey Kong, Chucky Egg, or Worm. You got started with real games with real observable humans rather than just sort of pixelated forms with annoying background music.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, these were still fairly pixelated, but yeah, it wasn't. I didn't kind of get started playing arcade games or the really early kind of console games and things that were 8-bit, blocky graphics. So, I mean, I think my first experience seeing a game was going around to a friend's house and playing Lemmings on the PC.
Oh, I loved Lemmings.
Here we go. Yeah, that was amazing. So for anyone who didn't play it, you had a string of these sort of disposable characters that you were trying to get through a level, and they could block barriers and they could smash through bits of the platform to kind of get you to the end of the level. It was inane, but it absorbed many, many hours.
Can you tell us, Tom, growing up in a Christian household, you are now joyfully, wonderfully a Christian. You now have kids of your own, and we're going to talk a bit about how you play games with them. Could you just give us that insight of age and wisdom of what any wrong steps you think you took, learnings along the way, discoveries you have now made of how to make it better?
I can certainly try. I hesitate to say I'm particularly wise here. I think there were plenty of mistakes. I already hinted at the fact that when I got a games console, that went in my bedroom. And I think, one of the things that I feel quite strongly now with my own children is that I want to avoid having screens unsupervised in an area that is kind of closed off and invisible to everyone else. So having the family PC in an area where everyone was good. As much as my mum might roll her eyes at me and my dad playing games, she was aware of what was going on. It was something that we did. And even when I played a game on my own on the PC, the rest of the family could see what it was and ask questions. When I went and shut myself in my bedroom on a console, I mean, to begin with, I think the games that I played were pretty innocent and not necessarily bad for me. But within a short space of time and in my kind of mid-teens, I was playing games like Grand Theft Auto, which I loved and I thought was brilliant. But in hindsight, I'm not sure it's great for a, whatever I was, 13, 14-year-old to be playing a game that was 18 rated with good reason. And I don't think my parents really understood what that game was and why I loved it and what it was teaching me. And I don't think I knew that really at that age. So I feel I want to understand what the things are that my children are consuming and what those ideas are. And I mean, it's a whole new world now, because when I was growing up, I didn't have a good enough internet connection to play online games. So there's a whole nother element of that now where I'm wondering, what my children exposed to, who are they exposed to? And so playing with them is kind of a way maybe sometimes to understand that a bit better.
Andy, can I ask you the same question?
Yeah.
Whenever I've talked to you, actually, you really do give me a wholly positive perspective. Like, you loved games, your dad did too. You got into coding, you got into creating. So it sounds to me like you're sort of discovering the Amazon through a computer. Do you see any wrong steps, learnings along the way, or is it just as simple as you loved it and you're trying to show your kids something of that world too?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a bit of a mixture of both. So I think there's a massive range of games, and for sure, there are some games out there that are definitely not going to be helpful for your kids. And I think, looking back, there are some games that with hindsight I kind of think I don't know how healthy that was. But on the whole, I just wasn't really entirely interested in that kind of game. I was always much more of a fan of like story-driven games and sort of puzzle-based games. I've got a few like other little plushies of some of my favorite games behind me. So there's a game called Portal, which is like a really kind of interesting little puzzle game, but you run around with this sort of portal gun where you kind of open like a big hole in the wall and then connect it to another hole somewhere else and you can jump through, and it's really fun, and it's got this really fun quirky story with these kind of quirky kind of characters and things. And I don't particularly feel like that's something to be like, games to me are just on the whole not something to be really afraid of. I think there's a lot of fun that can be had there, and they can be really wholesome. And I have, I think a bit like Tom, like those memories of friends coming around and playing games together, or I think they can be a really kind of social thing. I know for my kids, in some ways I do a bit like Tom, perhaps he's expressed the same sentiment. I do feel like a bit of a fraud coming on and talking about games. Like, I'm definitely in the area of parenting, I'm definitely not an expert, and I feel like I'm as scared by this as the next person, because my kids are always saying, "Oh, can I play this?" There's always this new game that they want to play, and I'm, I just don't know what is it. I don't know.
So, Andy, what do you do when that happens? What do you do? Shout, no, definitely not, run scared? Or, because like we're all in this situation as parents, we're all trying to work out, is this good, is this not? So, like, what are the kind of things that you're thinking? What are the kind of questions you're asking when you're trying to work out, is this a good use of our time? Is this a good way to go? What could we learn from this?
I think partly I like to try and sort of, I've learned just to sort of try and slow things down a little bit and just say, "Oh, thanks for telling me about that. Like, that sounds interesting or whatever. Can I look into it?" Andy Robertson, who was on this podcast with me last time we spoke about this topic, he's got a really good website, the Family Gaming Database. But actually, usually my first port of call is to log on there and just look up the game. They've often got like, it'll talk you through like what parents should be aware of, what the kind of themes are in the game. I think some of these games that I've been really scared of have actually, once I've sort of looked into them myself, and I think the key thing is to just play these games with your kids. If you rather than just say, "Yeah, sure, go play it," and then don't supervise them, then you're inviting trouble, aren't you? But I think just to actually sit down and play them, watch them play them, and then you can have those conversations, that's quite valuable. I think my parents had quite a light touch with me, but they wouldn't sort of say, "Oh, you mustn't play this game," but they would sometimes sort of like say, "What is this? And are you sure that's something that's helpful for you to play?" And I think it wouldn't mean that I always immediately stop playing it, but I think it would often, over time, I might sort of think, "Oh yeah, actually, is this game very helpful for me?" And so I suppose in some ways perhaps I was a bit older by that stage as well. So it's, obviously it will vary depending on the age of your child.
So, Andy, what you're describing is to me exactly the same conversation as like when you're sitting watching something with your kids. So like there's this new series that we want to watch, or this new program that we want to watch. I could go away and I could look up like the descriptions and the age rating and the summary of the synopsis of the plot, or I could sit and watch it with them and I could start saying, "I'm not really keen on that, and I don't really like the way they do that," or be the annoying commentator that I tend to be. But I hope that through that, I'm teaching them a level of discernment about how they make decisions for themselves and how they start to spot what's good, what's not. And that, literally as a parent, my job is to be their guide through this. Tom, you're doing lots of nodding. Come on, tell us. So one of your girls comes home from school and they tell you there's this woo-woo thing that everyone's talking about at the playground. I want to download it. I want to play it. What happens? What do you do? Where do we go? If it was me, no, we're not playing it. Let's go outside and do something healthy. But we're leaning in. Tell me.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there are sometimes those days where, your patience is thin and you do just say, "No, we're not doing that." And I can't, I'm not getting into it right now. But on the better days, I think, yeah, so like Andy said, there's great resources out there for parents usually on a lot of these games to read up. You've got the things like the PEGI rating, the age rating, which gives you some indications and some steers. And I think content-wise, you're right to draw an analogy with TV, films, books. You can kind of get into it in the same way. But there are other things that I want to understand about a game that's a slightly different dynamic. Like, who can they play it with? Is it a single player? Is it multiplayer? If it's multiplayer, is it something that they can only play with other people who are physically present using the same device? Or is it something where they can play online? And if it's online, is it open to anyone, or is it locked down in some way? So I think those are the things that I'm often trying to understand a bit better, because I don't feel comfortable with my 10-year-old daughter chatting with anyone online who she doesn't know, and she's not equipped to be able to do that and understand that the person she's speaking to might not be who they say they are, may not have her best interests at heart, may not be another 10-year-old girl. So that probably is the thing that worries me most when it comes to a new game. We also use games that are kind of more locked down. So that our kids have got an Amazon Fire tablet, which is, I understand that environment doesn't allow them to sort of get outside of it. So if it's a new game in that environment, then we're back in the content territory. Is this content that I feel okay with, or is this content where maybe I'd question it, and I just need to see it to understand?
So Tom, what does playing a game with your daughter look like? So let's imagine we've done all of those things, and you're ready to go. What does it look like? What happens?
Began actually quite selfishly. It began with my kids watching me play games. So I think, they were interested in what I was doing and wanted to see. But these days, so Minecraft is a great example. We love Minecraft as a family. And that will usually involve 2 laptops playing across a local connection in our house. And the decision then is like, are we building a new world, or are we starting from one we've already had? Are we going to try and survive it together, or are we just creating fun things? And that's a chance to kind of let my kids take it in the direction they want to go. Let's build a palace. Let's build a tree house. No, actually, let's try and survive and see how long we can go before we die. So that's kind of more fun to let them take charge. But then me being often a more seasoned gamer than them can help them avoid the frustrations and the disappointments quite so early on, unless we decide we want to embrace those and lean into them. So yeah, I think that. I don't know if that was answering your question. Really,
it was great.
Something Tom said there as well reminded me, like, I think it is really important that you get to grips with the kind of parental controls on your console or whatever for your kids. And in some ways that is an advantage of consoles. And I think even the newer they are, the more fine-grained their parental settings tend to be. But you can usually sort of lock down, like, you're not allowed to chat with friends, or you're not allowed to play content generated by other players. So even some games will have their own parental controls built in, independent of the console ones. And
this is exactly the story. And Amy just maybe illustrated it with a box set idea. There's a film out at the moment called K-pop Demon Killers.
Hunters.
Sorry. Oh no, I've done that mum moment of who's Michael Jackson. I'm so sorry. K-pop Demon Killers.
No, Hunters.
No, that's still wrong.
K-pop Demon Hunters.
Thank you.
So that feels like it's a film that's out. A lot of children, even in primary school, are talking about it. Your child comes home and says, Mum, quick, with the whole family, or not actually, can I watch K-pop Demon Hunters? Because I don't want to watch it with you because, Mum, you're going to do the annoying commentary.
It's that or nothing, kid.
Yeah, and so that, as with all things, if we are seeking to do our best for our children, then there will be a line of how old are they? How much do I watch it first if they are very young? How much do we watch it together if they are a bit older? How much do I just check out on a website first before watching it together? And how much do I let them watch it with a sibling and I just pop in every now and then because maybe they're teenagers or whatever it is? Having not watched K-pop Demon Hunters, I'm not really in a position to judge. So if you're shouting at the radio right now, this is utterly inappropriate. I also want to wonder why listening to our podcast on a radio. But there are so many things we could get stuck in right now as I bumble my way through technology and modern culture. So it is. So I also want to say I notice instantly that in Andy and Tom, we have two people who we have got on here as guests to help us navigate. And both of you have said, we're not experts. We don't know what we're doing. We don't quite know why we're on the podcast. This is all becoming very awkward very quickly. And yet.
That's the experience for every single parent.
Exactly.
Every single
in every
parent.
corner.
Exactly, and I hope that's an encouragement rather than a discouragement, that it's not like, oh, if even they don't know what they're doing, what chance have I got? I hope that's empowering to say, like, we're all figuring this out together, and don't beat yourself up if you feel like you've made mistakes. It's never too late to kind of add those parental controls, or to sort of say, hey, maybe I know we put the console in your bedroom, but could we rethink that? There's a lot of guilt we could feel in this area, and I don't think we don't do ourselves any favours by sort of just feeling burdened by that.
I think it's worth asking our children to extend some grace to us as well, because we're going. I'm trying to be open with my children about the fact that I'm still navigating this, and I might be more draconian than you want me to be, and sometimes that'll be the right thing to do, and sometimes that'll be the wrong thing, and I'll have to ask for your forgiveness, because I don't know these things either. And I'll talk through the principles of why I'm reticent, why I'm holding back, why I'm cautious, so that they at least see that maybe the motive is the right one, even if they don't like the results all of the time. And I can have that conversation at a much deeper level with my 12-year-old son now than I would have done when he was first wanting to play games, at a much younger age. But we're still talking about, okay, what are the things that feel like they're useful and healthy here, and what are the things that maybe are going to be less helpful? And hopefully, therefore, he can extend me a bit of grace and forgiveness when I need it, when I've gone too far one way or the other.
Tom, you are doing the thing that when we last interviewed Andy, we heard a lot about, and that is, I remember Andy Robertson, when I was being more blunt about my not that convincedness on games, said, play them with them, Ed. Find out where the passion is. Find out where the fun is. See where their enthusiasm takes you, which I also think is a great principle for every aspect of parenting, as your children discover new things. Now, Tom, you're doing that. Just lean into the moments that really have shined when you've been playing a computer game with your kids. Is there a memory or two that stands out of this is good?
This is probably a very selfish one, but I love that sometimes it can be the cause of an argument. It's my turn to play with Dad. No, it's my turn to play with Dad. And I don't get as many of those moments as I used to when they were tiny, that they're excited to do something with me and involve me. So that one, though it's very selfish, I love that it's often the cause of, kind of a bit of excitement about I get to do something with my dad. And I think, there's silly moments that are fun, like when, Ezra and I first broke through into the deep dark in Minecraft and like terrified ourselves battling a warden. And both of us are jumping out of our skin when, something makes a noise around the corner. Those kinds of things are quite fun to experience and then laugh at each other for. There's plenty of opportunity, just like there is with, as you say, any other pursuit that they're into. I think, to kind of discover what's floating their boat and getting them enthusiastic. Now, there's stuff that I'm less excited by. My son's in a big Pokemon phase, and that extends beyond the game. He wants the cards. He wants to talk about it with his friends. They want to kind of, swat up on all this encyclopedic knowledge about creatures that don't exist. And I'm less joyful about that. But I also understand it's something that he loves. He wants to put his money into. He wants to, talk about with his friends. It's a topic that they're all talking about. So I can at least engage with it by having played the game a bit, and got further than him in it, which is nice.
Good moment to brag there, Tom. Good moment to brag. I've come to learn. So my older son has enjoyed enjoyed gaming more than me, and we've done some gaming together, and he's been patient with me and tried to make me enthusiastic about things, and we found a game that we enjoyed playing together, and it's all been quite funny. But I think there's been something quite powerful in that I've stepped into his world and created enthusiasm for things that he's enthusiastic about, because he has to spend a lot of time in mine listening to me be enthusiastic about things, and me be enthusiastic about the Bible, and me be enthusiastic about Jesus, and it just really helps to share that. Andy, tell me about why the game builds an enthusiasm for those things. What are you hoping for? What were you looking for in the Serpent and the Seed? What is your dream when parents and children are starting off with this Robin adventure?
I really believe games have this power to help create these sort of memories and positive feelings and things. And I really want people to feel that excitement of like, oh, the Bible is actually a really cool story. Like, it's not just this dry and dusty book. It has hope for the problems that we're facing in the world. You know, it starts with that kind of, well, there's so much beauty in the world, and yet there's also so much brokenness, isn't there? Like, things aren't as they should be, and why is that? And yeah, discovering that the Bible has answers to those questions. But yeah, I do hope that parents will sit and play it with their kids. And we've had some lovely emails from people saying how they've enjoyed that. And I think if you wanted a kid to play it by themselves, it's probably for slightly older kids, sort of 8, 9 plus. There's a lot. I mean, there's reading involved. There are some like moments of mild peril, like a crucifixion and things like that. But I think we've heard of a lot of younger kids playing it with parents or grandparents or aunties and uncles, that kind of stuff. And, you know, I hope it's a great conversation starter for parents to be able to talk to their kids about the Bible, how it points to Jesus, and things like that. Yeah. And just, yeah, create that real kind of positive associations with reading the Bible.
So, Tom, I want you to set the scene for us. We're playing a game, and there's a moment. There's a moment where we could perhaps use as a parent to talk about something, to stop what we're doing, to learn something new. Can you think of a time when that has happened? How can we use gaming in parenting to help us?
Yeah, for sure. And there are plenty of moments of that kind of frustration or things spilling over, and you realize we've got to step away from this. There's a game that my 3 love playing together, and it has a multiplayer cooperative mode, so you can play. The idea is you're all working together to accomplish the thing, which is a great aim. However, what was starting to happen was one who was better than the others would zip on ahead, and the others would all kind of basically get left behind, lost, die, and then be regenerated to catch up. So they'd miss out on all of the fun because one person was really good and could zip in front and was playing it for their own benefit and not for everyone else's. And, you know, understandably, that was frustrating for everyone involved, actually. And it, you know, my 3 children were basically just yelling at each other, stop, come back, pop me, help me, catch up, why are you going on without me? And that's the moment where you say, all right, this is no longer this. The idea here was that we were going to work together. We were going to play something. It was really fun, but it's degenerated into how do I win at the expense of everyone else, which is just not how we treat one another. That's not how we look after each other. That's not the way we are family to each other. That's not the way that we behave. So we're going to turn it off. We're going to either separate everyone and have some time out, or we're going to find something that we can get back to that. How do we help one another? How do we bear with each other? How do we ensure that the person who's less capable is also having a good experience too?
Great. So, Tom, you've just described basically our values as a Christian family shape how we game.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I could say our values as a Christian family shape how we fill in the blank, whatever your family thing is. Andy, your values as a Christian family shape how you...
Well, how we game, but also how we design games. And, you know, actually trying to instill that in my kids as well, like that gaming isn't just this sort of thing which you consume. You know, you can actually, it's like Tom's talked about Minecraft. It's like we kind of almost have a special place in our family for, I can't remember exactly what we call them these days, but like games like Minecraft where you're building stuff rather than just like, it's very different from just like staring at YouTube or whatever, you know. So that kind of yeah, part of fitting it into our Christian values is like limiting how much. Yeah, I think games are brilliant, but I wouldn't want my kids spending all day, every day gaming.
Okay, Andy. So you've just mentioned, you've come close to the word that all parents scream and talk about, screen time.
Yeah.
How do you manage the amount of screen time? How do you have those conversations? I'd love both of you to help us with that, because that's a fight for every parent out there.
Yeah, it is. I won't pretend it's not a fight in our house as well. I think some of our kids are much better than others at actually realizing for themselves that they don't want to just be on this screen all the time. And I think that is the ideal. Like if it just becomes this externally imposed, like you must only have this much time, that isn't actually serving them for the long term. And even as adults, the temptation is just to be on our phones when we should be engaging in human relationship. And not that those things are always in conflict. Sometimes we're on our phones because we're texting someone, but there is a difference with that unmediated face-to-face kind of relationship. So yeah, I think we're trying to teach them to take that seriously for themselves rather than just and the other thing is, it becomes, if you say, "Oh, you're allowed an hour," they will treat that as like, let's get my full hour. You let me have an hour yesterday. Why am I not allowed an hour today? I think it's so yeah, I don't know what I'm not an expert at this, but I think I know it's important.
Yeah, and I think, Andy, it's a growing conversation, isn't it? It's like everything else in parenting. When your children are really young and new to this, you're setting the boundary as a parent. And as your children, because you're the one that knows better. And then as they grow, you're trying to teach them to set the boundary themselves in a sensible place. Come on, Tom. Tell me what the screen time fights are like in your house.
Yeah, well, just to pick up on what Andy was saying about limits, this shows my sinful heart, but when I was a teenager, my mum used to put the cooker timer on for my limits. And when she went out of the room, I'd go and add another couple of minutes back onto the timer. And she never clocked that my half an hour screen time crept up to 45 minutes very quickly that way. So I think imposing limits, as Andy said, it doesn't really get to the heart of it. We have certain nights of the week where ours know that it's screen time, they're allowed, they come home from school, but it is a priority thing. My son now gets homework. He's got to finish homework first. He's got to, there's obligations to fulfill before he can move on to the screen. And then, I think, if we notice that there's tiredness or behavior is kind of dipping, they understand that screens are one of the things that cannot be helpful in that moment, and they might be taken away. But also we try and do a lot more screen time as a family. Like TV for our three is watching with mum and dad, as much as possible. We sit around and we watch it together, and then it's not I'm as an individual locked into my own world consuming this. We're enjoying it together, we're laughing, we're enjoying feeling whatever feelings there are, and then we can talk about it. And if it's possible to do that with games, that's great too, though often they are a bit more, you're locked in your own world. There's moments though when we do have to step. I think screen time is a privilege, is one of the privileges that they get to enjoy. So it's one of the things that they know they lose if behavior is bad, and that's rarely controversial, even though it's frustrating, which is thankfully a good thing.
Okay, I want to ask favorite game to play with your family at the moment, Tom.
Lego City Undercover.
Wow, Andy.
So we love these really physical games like Nintendo Sports and Just Dance and things where I think they're just so much fun.
Okay, Ed, have you got one?
Oh, no.
Boo, Ed. Not even Tetris.
Hang on.
Come on.
Okay, I am just going to say, the talk about Lemmings earlier, I think if you gave me Lemmings now, I would spend 3 hours easily on it right now. So I think what probably frightens me about games is I know how easily I lose hours and hours of my life on it. So the vision of families doing it together, I think I could probably reveal my hand and say that's not a world I understand or have seen or encourage in my family. So 2 of my 3 children are into games, and I can say I am not participating in a constructive way. I'm mainly tutting and rolling my eyes. Andy, speak into my life.
One thing I do want to mention is Fortnite. So that's a game that, like, from a very early age, my son in particular was saying, I really want to play Fortnite. And I think I knew enough to say, I'm not even going to contemplate it until you're 12. But then, of course, he turned 12 and he was like, right, Dad, I'm 12 now. It's time to play Fortnite. And I had been really scared of it as a parent, but I think what I've realized, he's not really interested in it. It's not like these one-player games where you, like Lemmings, where you would play it for hours for this, for the sake of it. He plays it as a social thing. So all his old school friends, we've just moved from London to Scotland, all of his London friends are also on Fortnite, and he will play with them and they can chat. He can't chat with strangers, but he can chat with his school friends. But so that's a classic example of where I love to. He really enjoys sitting down with me, playing what are called duos, where we're a team, the two of us, together. And for him, that's a real treat. Like, he loves. He's always like, Dad, when can we next do some duos together? And it's really fun. I wouldn't naturally choose to play Fortnite myself. I definitely am glad I made him wait till he was 12, and I wouldn't let my younger kids play it. But now that he is 12, he's a bit older. Things have changed. It's a real treat for me to sit down and play that with him. Not because I enjoy Fortnite in itself, but I really do value that time doing something together with him where it's a good sort of side by side chatting time.
Andy, where are we going to get hold of the Serpent and the Sea?
Well, I'm glad you asked. It is a completely free download that you can get on both the App Store on iOS or Google Play if you've got Android. So you can get it on your phone, you can get it on your tablet, and hopefully it's coming to desktop soon as well.
Is it? Hang on, what's the word we use?
No,
glitch free. Is it glitch free?
Nothing's glitch free because half the glitches are us.
I would love to promise that, and I have had reviews saying people played through it without any glitches. If you do have a glitch, I would love you to get in touch and tell me about it so we can fix it.
Be Andy's friend. Tom, are you willing to end this podcast by praying for families as we try to navigate this glorious world?
Of course. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the good things that you give us. Thank you for the joy there can be in gaming, the ways that we get to experience something of the creativity that's yours first and foremost, the fun and the frustration and the feelings that you've given us to feel and enjoy. Would you help us as families to negotiate, because that can be great and it can be really bad for us? And would you give us wisdom to know what the best things are for us? Would you show us a path that we can follow that's going to honor and glorify you in our lives, to help us raise children who know you and want to love you and live for you, but also get to enjoy the great things about this world, which might be broken, but it has lots of beauty in it. So would you help us as families, please, to negotiate that with wisdom and with grace when we get it wrong, and knowing that ultimately all of the good things in this life are pointing us to you and to a future world that isn't broken, and maybe we'll get to game in that new creation. Who knows? Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Ed.
Say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.